Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one, welcome all. It is I, Stefan from the Alliance Open, and I am here today. I'm your host. Together with Daniel from Team Firebug, we are teaming up an epic alliance between two countries that will go down in ages as something that happened, I suppose. This is the Alliance Open Judges Call. Welcome, everybody. And it's going to be a show where we talk to TOs about TO stuff. And for our very first guest, we have Dean Ko. So first off, Daniel, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you tonight, Stefan?
I am very good. I'm very excited for this very first episode. And of course, Dean Ko, how are you doing, my friend? Important question of the day.
Good evening. I'm okay today. Living life.
Still alive, surviving the COVIDs. Getting
surviving
engaged.
COVID.
All right, very good. So what we've got going on here is we're going to talk to Dean Ko. He is the Amsterdam Battle Brother tournament organizer and club leader, if you will, over in Amsterdam. And he hosts tournaments, and we're going to have a little chat with him, what it's like. We've got questions later on. But first, before we head into the real meat of the program, I'd like to get to know a little bit about the person that is behind the TO. Who is Dean Ko? So, Dean, before we dive in, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is the man behind the Amsterdam Battle Brothers tournaments?
Dean Ko is a freelance designer and a gamer hobbyist. 40 years old, have 2 daughters. Big Star Wars fan, big Transformers fan, and Warhammer fan as well. Yeah.
So, are you team Decepticons or team Autobots?
100% Decepticons.
Decepticons, yeah.
Purple is the best color there is out there.
Who's your favorite Decepticon?
That's the 5 Predacons. All these animals.
Oh yeah.
They turn into one giant robot.
Okay.
And Snapdragon and Apeface, the headmasters. Those were also cool.
Yeah, I remember those, man. Hey, so actually, there was the Beast Wars as well. There was sort of like the computer animated ones. I actually saw an episode last week. It just came across my YouTube, and I was like, oh man, yeah, that's right. Beast Wars was a thing. It's computer animated. It was awesome, right? I love that, man. I love that. All right. So, tell us, what key moment in your past made you fall in love with Warhammer 40k or Warhammer? Actually, was Warhammer 40k your first game? You started playing as a miniature hobbyist, so to speak. And what made you fall in love with it?
40k.
Yeah.
It was literally the first moment that I saw any Warhammer 40k models. That was everything. It was beautifully painted. It was actually converted, which I figured out a few days later. And it was a tiny store, and the people were super friendly. And that moment just around forever. It was a small store in Amsterdam in the Kinkstraat. I think it was no more than square meters. It was super tiny, and a cabinet filled with models. And just oozed story.
Great, yeah.
You saw a couple of Space Marines and Vindicator before there was even a Vindicator model. Servitors with rapiers. That was the moment I got into 40k, and I never let loose of it.
No,
yeah.
As it's pretty much the story of most of us, I think. I actually had my first experience with Warhammer, just walking into a store as well, just looking around, seeing like models. It's like awesome, right? What is that? Checking it out, finding out there are actually groups of people that play this stuff, and never looked back. That's great, man. So are you
14?
14. Yeah. I think
26 years ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. That's long. I was in high school. Can't tell you how old I exactly was, but 14. You've been doing it for a long, long time, then, man. That's great. Still going strong, making other people play the game.
Probably.
So, are you a gamer or are you a hobbyist? Like, what's the aspect? Or are you both?
It shifts over time. Sometimes I'm more busy with the hobby side. Lately, I've been more busy with the gaming side, but it goes on and off.
Okay, so you love both a little bit. Just
There isn't a preference.
it's true. It's true. So then, trick question, because you are a bit of a hobbyist: brush or airbrush? You have 5 seconds to comply.
And brush.
Brush, yeah. All
I
right.
don't airbrush.
Not at all. No.
That's an easy one then.
So you're 100% wave the brush.
Yeah.
That's great, man. That's great.
It's an easy pick because I've never tried an airbrush as well, and sometimes I see airbrush models.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Dean. Can you come again?
Oh, we lost his voice.
Yep. We lost your audio a little bit, maybe. Hold on. I'll see if I can fix that. Let's see. Oh, now I'm gone. There we go. I'm back again.
Okay.
So Dean, can you say something, matey?
We lost your audio.
All right. So could you try and rejoin the? So I'll just kick you out real quick.
Back?
Yeah,
Okay.
now we
it is
can hear you.
Oh, great.
Awesome.
Okay, so now
Mobile version.
my video is gone, but so great start, great technical start. We're doing great, guys. We're doing great.
And we're professionals. We're professionals.
Yes.
Doing this live.
Yes.
All in the fun.
So we stopped at the question with the brush or airbrush.
Yeah.
And,
Oh boy, yeah. So brush. So then, what's the current project you're working on? What are you brushing with your brush?
I'm working on a converted Archaeopteryx fuselage. That's the name, the AdMech flyer. I took the plastic kit, took the Forge-World Vulturax Automata kit,
Okay.
the 30K flyer, meshed those together to make it really look like a bird. And now the version work is done. Now I'm painting it up. I'm taking my time with it. Yeah, it's a fun project. Oh, and of course, picking up Death Guard models. It's the never-ending story.
still pinning up Death Guard. Yeah. Don't you have enough by now? Okay. Never enough.
There's always more to add now.
So then I guess the next question is a rather easy one to loyalty check: death to the heretic Dean or death to the false emperor?
Death to the false emperor.
Yeah. So if you were to stab the emperor with a weapon, permanently killing him, and then causing the empire to descend in disarray and despair, with what weapon would you stab the emperor in his rotten heart?
Of course. Plague knife.
A plague knife.
Most easiest thing there is.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, in his already rotten heart, eh? Great. So then, next question: your favorite army? I think we can guess, but what's your favorite? So it's probably Death Guard if I were to wage a safe bet. But what's your favorite? What's your favorite miniature in the Death Guard? Like, who's your favorite for any reason?
In the Death Guard range?
Yeah.
Typhus.
Yeah. And why?
His pose is so epic. so an epic pose, and I always like Typhus more than Mortarion. I love it that Mortarion is there. I think I'd enjoy it more if it was covered in mystery. But you never see a Primarch. Typhus has always been face for me for Death Guard for so long. And even the old model of Typhus is still so good, and the new one is just a better version of it. But yeah, Typhus is my favorite model and character also for Death Guard.
I think
So,
it was
yeah,
pretty.
Hey, Stefan, just to interrupt you really quickly, Monday Monkey is asking Dean if he has an Instagram account or something so he can have a look at Dean's Death Guard models.
I don't have a Warhammer Instagram account. Sometimes I post something on the Amsterdam Battle Brothers Instagram account. I should do that more often. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your armies in person, and they're very nice armies. It's definitely something you should show the people. Hey, I'm back. There we go. I'm juggling.
Hey, Stefan.
Great. Now everybody can see my lovely face again. So yeah, your army's definitely great looking. Actually, I was under the impression because I asked Brush your airbrush that you airbrushed and then do like detail work with brush. It looks that good, man. I love it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I have a special technique that's called dry brushing, and that's all I do. I do everything with dry brush.
Well, it works for you. It works for you. Yeah. I mean, when in doubt, airbrush. Right?
That's a good.
All right. So, if you could mandate one rule, Games Workshop had to implement. We're segueing a little bit into TOing, a little bit, just a little bit. If you could mandate one rule that Games Workshop had to implement, and it could be anything. It doesn't even have to be inside the game per se. But what rule would that be?
To be honest, I think it's pretty okay now. Isn't any big glaring hole, in my opinion. I'm not missing anything as well. The only thing that annoys me, because my least favorite army, Space Marines, pick 2 faction specific secondaries.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing I would like to change. Besides that, I'm really happy with edition and the state of the game now.
Would you say it's the best edition so far?
They say that about all the editions. So, yeah, 8th edition felt easier to play, less cumbersome sometimes, so more prone to. So yeah, I think 9th edition is better than 8th edition.
All right, great. Yeah, we're already in 9th. I keep forgetting that. It's been like for me, it still feels like 8th. It's just 9th.
Yeah.
All right, great. What's your opinion actually on so because of the COVID and everything, and people not being able to play as many games in person as they would like, a lot of people are turning to online gaming. And I was kind of wondering what's your stance on the online gaming? Like you have the quite popular TTS where people play games on. Is that something you do, or what's your opinion on that?
I think it's out there. Only for all the people that need interaction with each other, because it can be being in lockdown and not being in contact with other people. So I 100% applaud it and advise everyone to do it. Personally, do it. I think I've tried 2 turns, 2 evenings, and I've had to restart 3 times because my laptop just isn't built for it. And to be totally honest, luck that there are a lot of 40k players in my neighborhood are allowed to have guests at home, so I can still play a lot.
Yeah, if you have like the convenience of a lot of people in your vicinity, then you can definitely have people over. Just one at a time. It's actually perfectly fine. And I would also say that in person beats online gaming every time. I wouldn't say though that it makes things. It is very convenient if you are not in such a situation where the people you usually play with are a bit further off or are a bit hesitant to come over or what have you, and this makes things very easy. I would say it draws a game out a whole lot more than usual. Like the game takes longer.
If I couldn't play two games a week at home, I'd probably dive into TTS.
You'd be all up in that TTS, yes. All right.
Then I'd have to go for it. Yeah.
All right. Now, final question before we're going into the event organization proper. We always want to ask the people, what's your favorite non 40K or non wargaming game? Sorry, can you say
Super simple, just basic chess.
Oh, chess.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's yeah.
All right.
At almost daily actually.
Really? Okay. And what's your rank? What's your chess ranking?
I think I'm at 900 now.
Is that any
That
good?
I mean,
No clue. I have no clue. Is that any good?
I think it's average. Nothing
Okay.
spectacular. It's not like I'm a chess master or something. I just enjoy it. It's easy to do. You play 10-minute rounds, and I grab one of those each day just to keep my mind fresh.
All right. All right. Well, it's actually a great game to teach you how to think ahead, right? So it's chess is all about thinking ahead. 40K in a big way is about thinking ahead as well. Because if you don't do that, and the other person is, chances are that other person that is thinking ahead is going to win. So it's actually a great way to keep your brain programmed or at least trained in thinking ahead. Yeah, it's great. I don't play a lot of chess. I played it back in the day against my grandpa. My grandpa was probably the only person that was worse than me. And
Nice.
I mean, I love my grandpa, but he couldn't play chess for shit, and so I beat him. You know, or maybe he let me win. I don't know. That's something only he knows.
Good, huh?
Yeah. All right. So now you're a TO for the Amsterdam Battle Brothers. So why in the hell would you be a TO? Answer me that question, please.
We wanted to play more games. Not specifically in a tournament setting, but it was just an easy mode to fit more games into. That's how it all started. We had a small club in Amsterdam. I think there was like people, and our first tournament was 12 people. Started to grow organically and fast until it became a little bit bigger.
That was great. So could you give us a brief interview about the Amsterdam Battle Brothers events? Like what's its size and how often do you do it and where do you do it?
Obviously, we have a pre-corona version and a corona version of Amsterdam Battle Brothers events. Before we were at for players, that was also the maximum capacity of the clubhouse. 3 rounds, single days, super relaxed vibe, and this funky mixture of people who just have fun with free games or just want to show off their painted models, and sometimes also the super high-end competitive players who are to crush your souls all day long. But for some reason, everyone got along perfectly, and everyone acts with each other. I think that's also the important thing with Amsterdam Battle Brothers is the vibe. It's just so easy going, and then everyone can join in and have a fun day. Now with COVID, we have toned down the number of players. The most we had was 14. But we didn't lose anything of the good vibe, and that was for us the surprising to see that even with less players, still that fun for everyone.
Okay. Great, man. Great. So I'm gonna give you. I'm gonna hand you over to Daniel. Daniel has some burning questions for you. And
Yeah.
Let's go.
We're going more in a deep dive into tournament organization.
yes,
So yeah, just to give everybody like a short intro, Dean and myself, we met the first time I think 2 years ago on in Bremen on the by that time it was the Northwest Alliance Open. We obviously met last year on the Hanseatic Alliance Open when I was a judge there, and we have a little history about that where we talk about that later. That's when we become really close friends. So yeah, what's a just go a little bit into more. You already mentioned the pandemic and the reducing the amount of players you can have with your events. So, what's the other challenges and risks you figured out during the pandemic?
Um, the thing is, because we've never run big tournaments, it means we're more flexible. I can turn out a tournament in weeks, no problem. So, and during the summer, everything started to open up again in the Netherlands. Announce at the beginning of the month tournament, the end of the month, everyone had paid their tickets, sent in the list were checked, were painted, and everybody's ready to go. So in that instance, I didn't have any issues with COVID. It didn't stop anything for me. Thing is, you need to keep track of how many spaces are between the tables. Everybody wearing the mask. Is there enough hand sanitizer? Are the windows open? Is the catering doing all the precautions that he needs to do? It's that. It's what you always do. So I don't have any problems with COVID or making it harder. The other thing is though, we did try to manage two bigger events last year. Those had to be canceled because of COVID. So
Mhm.
that was a bit of a bummer because we were really planning to go bigger last year, but we have to postpone it.
So, are there any sorts of financial risk or logistical wise? You already like booked the venues and you had to at least pay some part of the rent, or I mean, that's so you're lucky in the lucky position that you don't have to like go ahead with spending some money and then you don't get it back.
Now, I mean, I don't know if that's just my nature, but I always tend to have a good deal, with which helps me out the most. So I always try to make a deal where I don't have to pay up front. I can always back out any costs. The only hit we took last year was we bought a lot of terrain. The idea of having a 64-man tournament. We were stuck with a lot of terrain, but we managed to solve that all during the year with having lots of small tournaments.
Mhm. Yeah, that's good. That's I'm very happy to hear that. So it's always important like to keep the clubs like the Amsterdam Brother Brothers, keep these guys going, keep the small RTTs going, because that's where you drag like more people into the community, the small events like the 12-man, 16-man events, and then they just figured out, hey, like some sort of get off addicted to like meeting people, like the socializing, and then head out to bigger events, and then you can just hand them over to the Alliance Open.
But to be honest, I always enjoy the fact that new players at the Amsterdam Battle Brothers events, small 20-man or the 40-man tournaments, and then see them popping up at Alliance Open. It actually makes me proud.
yeah,
They had a good experience, and now they're taking it one step bigger and more professional. So it's really a perfect introduction to the hobby. Start at ABB, going forwards to Alliance Open, because then you get the scale of how big the community actually is.
Yeah.
That's thing to be proud of.
Yeah, so you're more like a, let's say, like a gateway, like the gateway tournament organizer to give everybody like to dip their toes into what's going into tournaments and then get the real feeling on the big ones.
gives them a
Yeah,
I'm
taste.
yeah.
really happy with that title, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned like becoming a TO was the main reason was just to get even more events, and I mean if you have like events right on your in your own club, you can run. So what's your opinion or your attitude towards participating in your own events? Because that's like some sort of like mind conflict you can get, because usually when you are the TO, you're also the head judge of the event, and then you might come in a situation where you are the player and have switched minds. You have to look at the next rounds and all that stuff. Do you have any problems with that?
In the beginning, we didn't because just too small to worry about it. Lately, it's been growing, and we've had to build in some systems for it because I'm not the only one who's Amsterdam Battle Brothers. There's also Frank who's TOing, and Jonathan also helps sometimes. Always a system that if one of the team wants to participate in a tournament, he's not allowed to make any judgment calls, be busy with army lists or scores. He's just not locked out from all that information, just to make sure that there can be no fallout because someone's joining in a tournament.
Yeah, that's
But
a good point.
yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, you just try to separate all that stuff and just say, okay, one is the player, one is the TO. That's I think that's the way to go. Otherwise, you will have a problem. Well, okay. So we had a couple of. I mean, within the last years, Games Workshop luckily was happy to respond really, really quickly to rules changes. That wasn't past in the way in the past. So, but still, in some cases, when a new codex drops and or the new rule set for the ninth edition last year, there were always like rules discussions, gaps in the. I mean, pro players like probably you yourself, you try to figure out these gaps and then just deep dive into them and just use it to your own like advantage. But how in general do you deal with deadlines for rules? And the other thing is when you see that obviously there's a rules mistakes or something's forgotten in the rules. Like let's say in the past we had points changes on the old liberators. We had now pretty actual. We had the points changes on the Reaver jet bikes from the Drukaris. So how do you deal with that? Do you leave it as it is and says, okay, GW writes the rules, we don't overwrite them, or do you make your own adjustments, pretty much like the WGC does, because they pretty much have their own FAQ?
Yeah, yeah. I I think Amsterdam Battle Boards is too small to change things. So what we tend to do is just follow what the community does or wants, and we stick by that. There's no reason for us to figure out new things. For the example with the Reaver jet bikes, if that's in a book, it's in the book. I can't make up my own rules about it.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think that's the way to go. But how about the other thing about the deadlines? What's the real deadline, the time span you have before? Okay,
There,
you
there,
know that there's probably something coming. How long do you give yourself to react to that?
there's been instances where we had a deadline for army lists, and it's on the same date as their new book coming out. Well, we asked the community in a WhatsApp group, guys, do you want this book to be in or out? The most voters say we want the book in. Then we'll move the deadline up 1 or 2 days, so they can still use it.
Okay, so you're pretty much listening to the community, get the feedback, getting
Yeah,
communication with them, and then figure something out. That's I think a way to do that. Um, Sometimes you have to make like hard decisions, but yeah, it's still the socializing aspect doesn't only stick to the game. I think important for when you organize an event and how you include the people and the people that are attending, because it's all about having a good time at the event. Have like know before that there's no chance for you to have it during while playing. So
I've got a question if I can butt in for just one
yeah,
sec.
perfect.
So yeah, so as a TO, you like we just discussed, you often have to make decisions on deadlines for which codexes to use, or maybe some rules that aren't clear, and then you have to make a decision in something. Do you find that as a TO in your events, you experience a lot of friction between you as a TO making those decisions, and then on the other side, the players that have an opinion about those things? Do you find that there's a lot of friction in that?
I haven't ever experienced. Um, my role as a TO more as a host. I'm there to make sure you have a good time. That's including both players on the table. So there have been instances where there was a judgment call needed. Discuss it with both and leave the table only when both players were happy. So yeah, I always try to find middle ground, which doesn't benefit anyone overly much. Everyone is still happy when I'm leaving the table.
So that one pretty much leads me to my next question. So, what kind of judge are you? Are they more the active, or are you more like a passive judge that only starts acting when he's called to the table?
There have been instances where I've seen people play, and then I do say that's not the way you should do it. It's supposed to be this and this and this. Mostly that's with the newer players that I do that. Only to help them so they understand the rules better.
I've actually experienced. So it's actually a question that I've asked myself a lot as well, because as some people know, I stream games, and you see a lot on the stream happening, and sometimes you can see things go wrong, and you ask yourself, is it my job as a judge then to intervene and say you guys are doing things wrong, or are you going to let the players continue their game because neither of them have caught the mistake or the misuse or the misinterpretation of a rule, and just let them play amongst themselves? What is your stance on that? Would you intervene, or would you just let it go on?
Yeah, it really depends on which table it is and which player it is. The newer players, I try to tell as much as possible, just so they get a correct experience out of the event, and that they go home with the idea of, I've learned new things. If it's the highest table with the two top contenders, them sort it out. They know their rules. They know what they're doing. They get into a situation which isn't correct. I expect them both to manage it and solve it.
So you always try to like give it to the players and then find their own way out of the situation.
Again, it all depends on the size of the tournament. You couldn't do this 100-man GT with all the top guys from Europe. We're talking about max 24 people, and they're all coming for having a good day. The vibe is different, and that also means as a TO, you need to adjust accordingly.
Yeah. So talking about like maybe weird situations or strange situations, what would you say? Is there a story or history where you say, okay, that was my weirdest moment as a TO/judge you had on one of your events?
It was all so easy and relaxed and that's the weirdest situation.
Maybe somebody, I mean, there are sometimes guys that like start bothering you or send in their army list like 20 times because they made my
Oh,
okay, I
There you
hit
go.
something.
That
I triggered something.
I got an army list from a Death Guard player. Oy, 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 oy. Points were incorrect. The war gear was incorrect. There was an FAQ with new points. Those were just. He had like 5 HQ slots in the battalion. It was just so weird. It was so weird. I don't know what to do with this. I couldn't even advise him on how to clear it up or how to adjust it accordingly. told him, hey, your list is incorrect. You need to send a new list. Understand it's your first tournament, so I won't dock you any points for it. And he just sent me, no, I'll just skip. Can you send me my money back? And that was it.
Oh,
So weird.
you were actually being a nice guy about it. You just said, "Fuck it," basically.
I just didn't know what to do with it. It was
It's
just
my
so
way
weird.
or the highway, Dean.
I never heard of him again.
That's
Again,
like no
it
compromise.
just vanished.
Yeah.
I,
It's
I,
just, wow. Okay,
I get it.
that's actually quite extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But
see,
then
every
again,
everybody has that story.
but
That was me, by
it's
the way. No.
really the only story I have.
Really?
Besides that, for I think how long have I been doing it? I think 3 years. In 3 years, thing went smooth and easy and no hassle at all.
I think you're very
Years
blessed.
having one bad list, that's pretty awesome to me.
That's great. I think you're very
That's-
blessed.
I just wanted about to say that because that's because if you go to like if you also run bigger events, there's also like sometimes there are these people you can't avoid them because you're the TO.
Especially because
I
you're
can
the TO.
be
So
annoying as well as
okay.
a player.
So I would go a little bit more into the rules if that's okay. So let's start about the part I mentioned at the introduction. Last year in Bremen we had a situation. Let's say that. You probably remember game 4 when you played against the Orcs.
Yeah.
So
Lovely
there was a judge call,
Yeah.
and I I don't know exactly if I was the first judge at the table. I think Martijn was there before me, and then I came along,
Yeah.
and there was a rule situation about the burner bombs from the orc bomber, how often he's allowed to drop the bombs per turn. And by looking at the wording of the English in the codex and the Orc codex, we just decided that it's allowed to drop the bomb twice in a turn, which was a mistake we figured out afterwards. But a judge call is a judge call. It's like in football or every other sport. You not mess up with a judge. You accept it. A real sportsman, you just said, okay, if you say this, I don't agree with you, but we're totally fine. And we just figured out later that we were wrong. Actually, what I figured by myself, if I would had the German rules available, because the German rules still clearly state that it's only be allowed to do it once per turn. It's like the wording is like very, very indicated.
I see.
Yeah, that's strange because sometimes it's the English ruling is more the explicit one, but in this case, it's actually in the German one. But I only had all the dexes with me in English, so we just figured that out later. By that time, we just we dealt with the situation. We dealt with the player who we figured out that he tried that situation in the first or second round already when Stefan was with him at the table. The problem really was on the judges' side, so on our side, because we hadn't had the conversation or the communication between Stefan, myself, and Martijn that was already happening in round 1. So you suffered from that. I hereby apologize again. I apologized like I don't know, like 500 times during the event when I figured out that I was wrong.
They're like
Uh,
this.
as I said, you took that as a real sportsman, as you are, as I got to know you, and yeah, we got to know each other even better. We're in a lot of contact as myself as an ITC rep by now. We chat a lot when you need tokens, and I publish that. But yeah, I just for everybody else, it's like to me the message I want to deliver with that is if you run an event where you have like a certain amount of people and several judges, make sure you communicate between the judges and make sure that you just change what you have ruled and what you have seen or heard at the tables, so that these situations don't happen at your event. We just learned from that, and I think that will be properly changed during the next Alliance events. And yeah, I mean, sad that we had that situation, but it's true that judge calls or rules that are interpreted by the judge are the state of the game, and you have to accept that, even if it's wrong.
This is interesting, actually, by the way, because you actually said that in the German codex for the orcs, it's very clearly stated that you can use the bomb only once. So it specifically says so. And then there's the English.
You can drop one bomb, it says, and it's in the English one it says A or something.
A bomb.
Yeah,
So then,
A bomb.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, can you? I don't know. Can you? I think we have that rule. Can you pop that up, Stefan?
I could, but I just had, before I do, I just had a question about that. So there's one language that specifically makes the argument null and void because it's clear in its wording, and then there's another language that actually, because of the way it's worded, makes it ambiguous. Now we're in Germany. So, Dean, would you say that because we're in, you'd be, let's say you had the German codex that said only one can be dropped, and then you have the English one who makes it a bit ambiguous. What would you do? Would you say, well, now we're in Germany, and so the German codex takes precedence? And likewise, in let's say, an English language country, name one, you would say that the English codex takes precedence? What would you say?
To cover the whole story, after that moment, after the game as well, there was a lot of talk to players on what the situation was. So they asked me, and people told me what they experienced. The main problem was that I think it was round 1 or round 2. Stefan made a judgment call. DOE said you can only drop one bomb a turn. And in round 4 against me, I had to do it again while it was already judgment called. The luck was that you guys didn't knew from each other. That's why he got away with it before he got red carded.
A yellow card only. It was a yellow card, not a red one.
Red card. regarding regarding German rules and English rules, that part's already covered in the rule pack.
Yeah,
it clearly states English rules and not German rules. So that's fine. I mean, you don't have to get to German book to figure it out. I mean, I also asked around in worldwide tournament scene, agree on dropping 2 bombs a turn. It isn't even that he did something ages. The fact was he turn 1, he got a judgment call and he went against it. Yeah. That was the whole issue, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. We've actually
in your regards.
We've actually got
missing it.
Oh, sorry, Dean.
Human.
I was going to say we've actually got Martijn saying pulling up the rule in question here. So the English version says up to twice per battle, this model can drop a burner bomb as it flies over enemy units. So you could interpret that it doesn't give you like a limit to. It doesn't say you can't drop them both in one turn. It just says up to twice per battle. But you could interpret it in the way. So yeah, like you said, he didn't. Following those rules, he didn't really do anything wrong, but it was more that he went against the judgment call, which is in direct violation of the tournament rules, naturally, right? So yeah, but it's I find it very interesting that then there arise these rules problems just because the language is different, which is unavoidable probably, but still, it's quite an interesting thing.
Yep.
Glad I never ran in such a situation as Theo.
I wonder what the Dutch variant would say.
Is there a Dutch version?
No, Dutch is so lame. It's so lame.
Okay, so that's the past. That's the past. We just don't look back. We look forward.
We're gonna
So
jump to the DeLorean. Oh no, wait,
we
the
we
opposite.
no, that was something. Okay. Yeah, we are about the don't talk about stuff. Probably the viewers don't know because we're more in the elderly legion right now. So,
What do you mean?
well,
What are you trying to say?
we yeah. I mean, at least Dean and myself. So, but so I think the beginning of the week on Monday, Tuesday, the new FAQ dropped, or FAQ dropped on the Death Guard Codex. So let's talk about a little bit. Talk about the Inexorable Advance, which was the rule that was clarified in the FAQ drop because it wasn't really clear. First of all, go back to the Inexorable Advance. It has a couple of rules in it, and the thing I want to talk about, or we want to talk about, is it says if this unit has the infantry keyword, it can ignore any or all modifiers to its move characteristics, advance rolls, and charge rolls. So that's a general army-wide rule the Death Guard received with the new codex, and the discussion that was pretty much up in the webs was how does that interact with the difficult ground rule from terrain, because that one states subtract 2 inches when making a normal move, advance, fallback, or charge move over this terrain feature. So there's like a lot of people played it. I mean, I think like 99% agreed. Okay, difficult ground doesn't make any changes to the movements of Death Guard models. I had a big discussion on the interwebs with that. But first of all, before I go with that one, I want to hear your opinion, Dean. How do you rule that, or how did you interpret that?
I just plowed through words like it was no problem at all.
Oh, you poor guy. Yeah, it's like okay. So, so yeah, the FAQ that dropped pretty much states that difficult ground still subtracts 2 inches from the movement or the distance moved. We just have to clarify that here. The Death Guard model does, because it doesn't change the characteristics. And everybody was always looking at the word modifier in that rule, but nobody was looking at the word characteristics, because it clearly doesn't say anything about we're modifying the characteristics on that thing. So yeah, I was like, I had a big debate in the judge chat in the forum on the interweb, and everybody was I pretty was alone on my side. Everybody was like, your opinion, Dean, and I was like, okay, I don't want to start a big discussion here, so I leave it as it is. But like 2 days later, when that dropped, I secretly did my "I told you" dance.
You first
like,
tucked in your neck beards like a Norwegian. Pull out your neck beard. I was right.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part. So that brings me to, before we go along with the rules, that's the part I really like about judging, and I want to hear your opinion about that. I like deep diving into rules and see, okay, what's the rules as written, what's probably the intent of the rule. So what's your approach? Is it more rules as written? Is it rules as intended? What's the way you go?
As a player, I lean more towards rules as intended. I tend to agree with certain rules. Don't think they should fit. Like dropping a bomb twice a battle screams to me once a turn. No rules as written have anything to make my case. So deal with it. As a TO, I'm not to have an opinion about things and just follow the community. As a judge, as TO, I really tend not to have opinion.
It's interesting though.
There's no one.
So you would rather say that. So you say you follow the community. So whatever the community consensus is, takes precedence over what the actual rules would say. That's something you would take that route.
Okay.
So in the case of Death Guard,
I think it's
In the
difficult
case of
though.
Death Guard, I totally disagree with the rule. But rules as written, yeah, you can do it. So that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got Martijn actually chiming in. If the community is inconclusive, how would you then go about ruling it?
then I'd follow either Alliance Open, LGT, or ICT.
Okay.
In that order.
Definitely first Alliance Open, mainly because they have the most influence on the community where I'm situated in. Yeah. Top dog, top dog. No one's disputing that.
Okay. So heading back to the inexorable advance. I love Games Workshop for giving names. So we still have a couple of rules that interact with even the FAQ drop. So we got the almost famous Tanglefoot grenade from the Adeptus Custodes. So what do you think about? I don't know if you have the wording on the list. I can read it to you. So use this stratagem at the beginning of your opponent's movement or charge phase. Choose an enemy unit within 12 inches of an Adeptus Custodes infantry unit from your army and roll a d6. Your opponent must reduce that unit's movement characteristics or change distance by the result until the end of the phase. Change charge distance. Sorry. Units with the fly keyword are not affected. So how does it interact with your new Death Guard rule?
Reduces D6 from the movement characteristic of a unit.
Exactly.
So Inexorable Advance says, no. We just move 5 inches forward.
Yeah, I agree. I agree to that. I agree to that part. So let's go look at the more difficult part because it says on the one hand, it's depending on when you launch the grenade. If you do it in the movement phase, you reduce the movement characteristic. If you do it in a charge phase, you reduce the charge distance. And Inexorable Advance, just to go back, says you ignore all modifiers to your advance or charge rolls. So in this case, would you say charge roll is equivalent to charge distance? Because that's the difference in the two rules. The word is an Inexorable Advance says charge roll, and Tanglefoot Grenades says charge distance.
Is there a wording for what charge distance is? For example, if I roll a 9, is that my movement or is that?
No, you roll two dice to determine your charge distance. I'm fairly sure that
Yeah.
that's the way it's worded. So
Yeah.
I would say personally, if I were to jump the gun, is that your charge roll is in fact your charge distance.
I totally agree. I totally agree, but I think that wording will mislead to another discussion about that.
Yeah.
But it's another showcase to me that GW should keep in mind to stick to the same wording all the time.
Yeah, they should.
I think a lot of situations that arise now are 8th edition codex with new 9th edition rules. That's where things get bungled up.
Yeah. I mean,
in regards to Tanglefoot Grenade, I definitely do think it reduces the charge distance.
I mean, it's probably going to boil down once again to what's actually written down and what's the intent of the rule. Because Inexorable Advance basically means in a fluffy way they are never slowed down. They always move at a pace at the pace they move at. But there are
Unless
different
it's trees, then they get half movement.
Yeah, unless there are trees.
No grass. I have to stop. Wait.
No.
Yeah.
And so I think.
Oh, branches! No.
I think the thing here is that with the FAQ they dropped, I think what they wanted to do is they want to clearly indicate that there is a difference between when you change the characteristic and not changing the characteristic, and even with the wording being different from Tanglefoot Grenade and the Death Guard rule, it's still clearly it's still obvious that it's meant to be the same.
I
In this
think
case,
GW just wanted to make me angry.
Yeah.
personally,
Yes.
I think that's why I made a call. I made a call up there and just said, "Hey, we're talking to Dean tonight, so could you please do that?"
Could you start a
What about
fire?
that Tanglefoot? What about that Tanglefoot?
Okay, yeah. There are still other rules like the graph pulse from the Space Marines Codex. That I have the wording here. It says when you launch that, um, your opponent's charge phase. When an adeptus or starter's repulsor field unit from your army is selected as a target of a charge, until the end of the phase, subtract 2 from charge rolls made for any unit that declares a charge against that repulsor field unit. So, again, here in this rule, it's clearly obvious that it's the same meant as in the Death Guard rule, because in this case, it says charge roll, same as in the Death Guard rule. Going back to Tanglefoot Grenade, we have charge distance. So I don't want to. I don't want to break up a big discussion here because I personally think that everything's meant to be the same. But you can see on some rules they have the right wording. On some rules, because it's an old codex, as you already mentioned, the wording is different. So probably if Tanglefoot's Grenade still exists when Adeptus Custodes Codex comes out, they change that from charge distance to charge roll. I would suggest so.
I mean, that's the thing that I'm very curious about. As what I think, how things happening, GW has different writing teams or rules teams. Seems like they never collaborate together. So I'd be very interested to see how actually things are done because, like calling something a charge distance or a charge movement, to be gained there if they could streamline that process because we wouldn't have these discussions then.
I don't even think this problem ever occurred to them in the first place anyway, because it's so specific in the way it's worded.
Nitpicking.
Yeah,
It is nitpicking.
Yeah, it is.
I would wager that even if you had the same team writing everything for every codex, you would still have these kinds of things. Because just take a look at how slightly different these two things are worded, and how now all of a sudden we're having like these live, wild discussions on what it could mean. What's the meaning of this?
Maybe that's the one thing that you'd miss from 7th edition. In the back of the rules book of 7th edition, you had all the rules explained. Everyone had a warrior or a feel no pain. Now we have all these specific rules on each data sheet. We just have general rules and assign them to data sheets.
Yeah. See, that's the part I'm very happy about because I came back to the game in when 8th edition started. I had a big break before, and I just hit the right spot. I'm totally not unhappy that I missed 6th and 7th edition.
Yeah.
I mean, edition was bad though.
It got a little wild at the end, but it was a great.
Oh, yeah.
It was a pretty fun edition. Martijn actually says that they really need to have one guy who just simply checks all the rules on those keywords. But I think you've
copy pasted.
Yeah, I think you've actually hit the nail on the head on a great way to solve this problem, Dean. Like you said, you have like 50 different feel no pains, right? In different armors. They're all worded differently, but they work the same way. It's a sort of after save. You've got your armor save, and then you've got a type of after save. And if they would simply say, cool, you have disgustingly resilient, and then in the rule it would simply say feel no pain 5 up. Now all of a sudden you've got the different wording, which is fun and fluffy, but it's much more tight in its use of the rules, right? Because it all refers to the one same rule. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter at all because I think Death Guard are not playing top tables, so that discussion never comes up.
Only when Dean plays.
See you soon. See you soon. I'm coming for you, Germans.
Yeah, hopefully, sooner than later. I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, leaving the Death Guard, I switch over to another discussion that popped up lately. Is I don't know how familiar you are. You probably know these guys, Tyranid spore mines. These little guys that are shot around by the biovores or appear on the table and then explode and damage your army and all that stuff. So again, here we have an old rule. We have the old ruling from the
Like Tim.
existing Tyranid Codex, and then we have a new up-to-date secondary, which is called Raise the Banners High. So the question here is: do spore mines, which don't we all know as a judge and the TO that they don't count for scoring conditions, do they block an enemy unit from raising the banners high?
I think they do.
Ah, you don't have the ruling with you, yeah?
Now, what do you know? Moving on to the next question. Yeah.
Enemy. It's an enemy unit. Enemy units block
Exactly. Yeah.
Banners. And regarding the victory conditions, I think that's only for the Tyranid side, not for the opponent's side.
No, it's for both sides. It was when you get like kill points you don't get kill points for destroying spore mines. So that's even also a victory condition.
Isn't that
So
isn't that what came up during the Bremen Tournoi as well? The question with the spore mines. That's what we're talking about.
it came up in Bremen, yeah.
Yeah. So there's actually a rule that states that spore mines can contribute to scoring victory points. Now that's of course an older. That's from an older edition before all the new secondary objectives and stuff. So now the question, but we've ruled that they can't do any of the secondary or primary mission things. And I think it actually was the case that before you could you block people from doing secondary or primary missions in previous editions. I
mean, now Dean pretty much hit the nail on the head already, because the rule for raising the banners high says that raising the banners high is blocked once an enemy unit is within scoring range, but it has within the range of the objective marker, not within scoring range. It doesn't even mention the word scoring. So it just has to be a model around. It doesn't say anything about victory conditions or being able to score or something. So it just has to be an enemy unit. So I'm told in this case I'm totally with Dean, which says okay, spore mines definitely block raise the banners high.
I'm with you word wise. I'm not with you as intended. I don't think this is the intention. But I don't think anyone.
AO makes a judgment.
Yeah, it was.
AO makes a judgment call in it. I'll follow them.
Yeah. Okay. That was that was a good one. So I have one final one on my list, which is in general just about the secondary assassinate. So as we all know, we have a couple of annoying characters and models that appear to stand up again once you beat them to death, like our favorite Reboot Gulliman or Saint Celestine or whatever. I don't know. So the question here is: do the model count for victory points, even if it got raised back to life once it got killed? How would you judge that?
I'm sorry. I'm reading something very juicy, so I wouldn't normally cut you off. We'll continue that question, but I'm actually reading something quite good. So Martijn, being the ace, he actually posted the living bombs rule. So the living bomb says spore mines are discounted for the purposes of any victory conditions. Now, is it a victory condition to have?
No, it's not a victory condition. Oh, we leave that to Dean. Sorry for that.
A victory condition.
No, I mean what I'm trying to say is it's a victory condition to have no enemy models near that point for the raise the banners.
No, it's not. The victory condition for raise the banner is to put your model on there and take an action. That's the victory condition, and you just lose raise the banner once an enemy model is around. So that does not belong to the victory condition. The victory condition is just.
Yeah, but we're talking about two different things here. can a spore mine steal a banner, or can a spore mine block you from raising a banner? 100% believe it can block you from raising a banner. I'm not sure if you can steal a banner.
Well, they are discounted for the purposes of victory conditions, so they can't.
Yeah, because
actually.
a spore a spore mine can never control an objective, so we can't steal a banner.
No.
But spore mine is still an enemy unit, so we can block you from raising a banner.
All right. Thought I had something there, but that's usually. Yeah, it's usually my life.
That's a good one. I didn't catch that at the beginning. So we got two different conditions, but I totally agree with you, Dean, that it is able to block it, but it's not able to take it down.
But it totally shouldn't
because
be able to block either.
That's what the wording is. We're not talking about. We keep in hard facts as we always do.
Raw.
That should be our battle cry.
Rock Advance!
Pay raw hammer.
Yeah. So, jumping over to the secondary assassinate and reborn characters or reborn models. So, what you think, Dean?
You scored at the end of the battle. If he resurrects during the game, tough luck for you. Yeah, so if a model resurrects during the game, you can score until you kill him for the second time. And you count the models that are killed at the end of the game.
Yep. I agree. If I might put my 2 cents in, because it is, and I would make it if. I would back it up by, it specifically says is destroyed and not was destroyed. So it's looking at.
But is the time point in the timeline when you read the rule? So if you read it right after it's destroyed, it is destroyed. So, but you get the points at the end of the battles.
It checks at the so you come in murky waters of. Is it checking at the end of the battle, or is it checking immediately but awarding you points at the end of the battle? Dude, that's.
If it wasn't checked at the end of the battle, it wouldn't say end of the battle.
I think so too.
Yeah. So we got a consensus here.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty easy.
Yeah, lucky.
We did it.
Boring. So rules wise, that's what I have on my list. I don't know if there's anything actual that dropped right now. Maybe there's something discussion in your community, Dean, that's going on right now. Some rules that are popping right now. I don't know, probably.
I'm also in the Art of War 40k group Discord. One of those guys, TJ Lanigan, with some super chaos jank. Took a Supreme Command detachment, Madness in it. Took an auxiliary detachment with Mortarion in it. That's the Warlord.
It has to be that in a Supreme Command detachment, always your Warlord has to be in there. Isn't that the rule?
But yeah, that's a Supreme Command detachment rule. But Mortarion says he always must be the Warlord.
So which rule takes precedence?
Dun, dun, which one is heavier?
Does Magnus?
Well, in this case, I would judge as the following: Mortarion will be a Warlord, but 3 extra command points from the Supreme Command detachment. Because your Warlord is not in there. Because Mortarion is your Warlord in the auxiliary detachment.
So, I was just wondering, does Magnus have the same role that Magnus says he must be the Warlord?
The thing is, he wants Magnus in the Supreme Command detachment, so Magnus gets access to all the stratagems and the chapter tactic of adding 6 inches to your range of psychic powers. It's a janky way to get the best of both worlds. I'm just not agreeing that it should be allowed, though.
It's definitely not the intent, because does Magnus, I don't know, does Magnus have the Supreme Commander keyword?
He can be in the, because you need a Demon Primarch, Demon Primarch keyword.
Even Primarch keyword, okay.
So, Supreme Command Attachment does indeed say can only include Primarch, Demon Primarch, or Supreme Commander, and it must be selected as your Warlord. So I would actually go as far as to say, because what's his face, the stinky one, says must be Warlord, he has to go into the Supreme Command Attachment, because he says of himself, I have to be the Warlord. Supreme Command Attachment says must be Warlord, so he has to go in there, and Magnus cannot go in there. He has to go into the other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sheet rules are stronger than detachment rules.
I think this is the only way where the rules actually comply to each other. So I would
Yep.
say it's the best. It's the best interpretation. It won't.
Yeah, Martijn just posted the rule in the chat. So
Yeah.
it says this detachment. So we're talking about the Supreme Command detachment. This detachment can only include one Primarch commander unit, and this unit must be selected as your warlord. So I agree with Stefan. If Mortarian says he has to be a warlord, he has to go in there.
Yes, it's the only way the rules don't contradict. So it's
Exactly.
therefore the best interpretation, I would say.
I agree as well. I thought it was total bullshit.
Well, Magnus and Mortarian in the list is per definition total bullshit. So.
Yes.
So why stop? Why stop there, right?
Yeah. Continue.
So Martijn says TJ actually
I
plays
said,
with this, and it's okay.
he, at the LV Open.
He did so, yeah.
I think it's illegal. It's one of those hard to catch
Theo allowed
legal
it.
things, but yeah.
TO, yeah, it's a TO call.
Yeah.
It is. Even if it's incorrect, but if the TO decided it's okay, so
Every
then
event.
that's the way to go.
I mean, TOs are only people as well, right? Right.
So I see Martijn is popping questions in the chat. I don't know if there's any.
Well, there's one question in chat. If you're TOing one of your events, how much points would a Stompa be at one of your events?
500. Point stamp all the way. Shop for president.
He's been lobbying so hard, man. He's been lobbying so hard for that to be the case. He's been going on Facebook.
If I can get enough players, for 500 point stamper tournament.
Yeah, actually, everybody gets a
One can bring a 500 point stamper.
Yes.
Oh,
Lovely.
Man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No, so I don't have any further questions. I personally do have a question for you, though, Dean. If you would be in a 40k gunfight, what weapon would you bring?
Consider a Cataphrone destroyer as a gun.
I mean,
That gun.
you want to ride
A driving gun.
You just want to sit on
Ride
top
in with a graph cannon. Cannon phosphor bastard. Let's go.
I think I would also go with the phosphor. I think Rav relies too much on armor. So if you fight like a naked chick, like a witch, you're screwed, man. She doesn't have any armor.
Yeah. Weight of dice.
All right. Actually, I want to know from Daniel as well. What weapon would you bring to a 40k gunfight?
I go classic. I go really classic. I'm from the bottom of my heart. I'm a guardsman. I will bring a last gun. It not only shoots laser beams through your head. You also can light up the dark.
I think I personally would just tie a squig bomb to my chest and just run at you.
Shock attack gun.
Nope, squig bomb.
Well, this is not That's not. That's a bad choice for a gunfight, my friend. That's a bad choice.
We'll all go out with a big bang, and I win. That's just cause. Great, man. So, Dean, before we wrap things up, do you have anything you want to say? Anything you want to promote? Maybe somebody you want to give a shout out, or just say something funny. Now is your chance. The spotlight's on you, my friend. You've been a great guest,
Shit.
and
I'm absolutely not funny when needed, but I do hope everyone sticks together for the oncoming period. I try to stay positive. Tournaments will come back soon, and when you can, to Alliance Open, go to Amsterdam Battle Brothers. Guys, we need you at the tournaments. We want you there. Yeah, a few more months, and then we'll probably back to somewhat normal and have our games again.
that's great, man. Do you actually have a next event planned yet, or are you waiting for?
I have a nice venue booked for the 10th and 11th of April, but I haven't posted anything because I'm assuming I have to cancel it anyways.
Okay.
Yeah. Besides that, no new dates. Just waiting for news from Mark and Hugo.
Yeah, well, completely understandable. Daniel, you have any last words? Anything you want to say or ask?
Just a short note to Dean, just for witnesses. I'm working very, very hard on terrain, and we're also from Team Fireworker looking forward to, once everything's coming back to life, to do our events. And I would really love to have you at our event, Dean. So I would like, if you're willing to come, I would really,
Definitely.
I would really enjoy to have you around, and just to give the tournament probably a little bit of like international flair, and have a top player from the Netherlands and from the Dutch WTC team at our event.
So weird. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to going abroad to tournaments as well because there aren't that many in Netherlands, even without COVID. I'd like to head out over to Germany more often.
I
So
can tell.
if you guys are running anything, I'll be there.
Cool. I'm very happy to hear that.
I mean, we were at the last Bremen tournament, and it was a blast. Oh, you were there as well, by the way. So,
Yeah, it was so awesome.
I just wanted to say it was a very nice day. And the thing that stood out most to me, I was like, wow, really? All these guys, all the guys over there, were really helpful with just cleaning up everything, putting things back in boxes. So I just wanted to say that German people are really nice in that way. They just clean their own shit up, and hardly had to do anything. It's great. It's great. It was really like, wow. So yeah, take note, Dutch people. So well, with that being said, I do love Dutch people, but please don't hurt me. Everybody, thanks. Dean, thanks for coming in, my friend. It's been great talking to you. I wish you
See you
all
guys
the best.
soon.
And Daniel, thanks for hosting with me, my friend. We'll team up next time. Next time, actually, we'll have a pretty big guest. Yeah, we have a pretty big guest next time. I don't know if you want to spoil a little bit.
We can spoiler just a little bit. I already sent out a save the date ticket to him, so we're looking at the 26th of March for doing our next show, and he said yes, he would really love to join us. So it's a guy from the, let's say, I just gonna give a little sneak peek. He's from the United States. He runs a pretty big tournament over there, and that should be it.
He has and has a smooth, silky voice. That's what I wanted to add. So, anyway, so everybody, thanks for watching. See you guys next time, next month, and have a good one. Stay safe, and yeah, until next time, my friends.
Bye bye.